Hello, once again, and welcome back to Storytime with Mary's Child Development Series. We're still continuing our amazing conversation with Baba Darzi, who is a clinical psychologist from Hearts and Minds Aloud. Hi, Baba. How are you today?
Hi, Mary. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, and my kids have gone back to school, and we are talking about a very topical topic today. We want to talk about external influences today. So recently, I came across this young boy who lives in my neighborhood, and I was shocked and horrified by the kind of language that he was using. And I actually said to my husband, I'm so glad that my children are not friends with this kid. And then we went to school for the first time on Thursday, and lo and behold, the same child is in the same class as my daughter.
No way.
So how do you prevent or manage external influences on your own children?
Thank you, Mary. That's a very good question. And it's timely, thinking of the fact that our children are going back to school and they'll be interacting with their peers. More than controlling external influences, you want to focus on bringing up your children the way that you believe is right. So instilling the right values in them. In an earlier episode, we've spoken about the sorts of values that parents want to teach their children and how they want to pass these values on to them. So you want it to become such a part of them that when they see other behaviors that are contrary to what you've taught them, they're able to at least point them out as something that feels unusual to them. You would want to train them using open communication, giving them a lot of time and love and open communication so that when they see, these things that feel like a bit of an anomaly, they can come to you. So for example, in Chloe's case, if she was around this boy and he was using language that you haven't endorsed at home, right, she could probably come to you and say to you, Mommy, I heard A, B, and C, and D, and you said to me that it isn't right to speak like this. Why is it okay for him to speak like this? And then with the communication channels that you've created, you're able to explain to her why she should stick to what you've taught her. It's a concerted effort with parents and teachers because I guess when they are not spending time at home, they are in school as well. So you want to collaborate with their teachers so they are making sure that these values are being kept in the school too, as much as it's possible with them.
And as we all know, there's no manual for parenting, and no two homes are the same. Their upbringings are not the same. But obviously, personally, I wouldn't want my children to use such inappropriate language just because their friends or their associates are using them, and they're allowed to do that at home. Yeah. So do you have any advice on how we avoid these negative external influences and that undo all our home training?
Yes. Oh, you don't want that undone because you know that there's a whole lot of work going on there. Yes, it's a valid concern. Most parents worry about the kind of company their children keep. So you would be screening, seems like a harsh word, but you'll be screening the kind of friends that they have over, the kind of friends whose homes they go to. Okay, sometimes you are around some parents and you realize that you don't have the same value systems. You don't share the same ideas on raising children. So you might want to limit the interaction that your children have with their children, not out of malice, but just because you want to focus on training your children a certain way. So as much as it's possible with you, you want to control the environments where they spend their time. Now, we've talked about people. It's another very important area to look at when you're thinking about negative influences is the internet, right? And how much screen time children are spending. So they might not physically be with friends who have questionable character, let me say, but they might have access to all of these things on the internet. And if you are not controlling that or monitoring that, they fall prey to all sorts of, what we are calling negative influences this morning. So you also want to control the sort of screen time children spend, or make sure that it's regulated so that whatever time they are spending is useful, is educative, and even if it's entertaining, it's the right kind of entertainment. So you control the environments where they spend the most time as much as it's possible with you.
Thanks, Barbara. And that's a really relevant point, actually, because it's not only about friends, but it's also about what they see on the internet.
Yes.
But you make a good point around controlling friends and making sure that we're understanding or knowing, the kind of friends that they're keeping. How can we create a really positive environment for our children so that they actually have the right values or your values instilled in them, and then they can model those values even around negative influences?
The best you can do is focus on what you are teaching your child, reviewing it, making sure that they understand and they value what you are teaching them. Okay, so occasionally when you feel like, have conversations with them. Okay, have open and, to an extent, non-judgmental conversation with them, so that even when things feel negative, as much as they are unsure, they can come to you. Or even when they are not unsure, you can speak to them and find out, what kind of behaviors or what kind of interactions they're having that might not be helpful. So you can correct that, right? And I guess part of your training will also involve consequences. So if you are teaching them something and they're doing different, and even after explanation, they probably don't get it, then you also want to let them face some consequences. That's a way to, in a way, condition them. We know that conditioning is part of learning, is a big part of learning, right? So you teach them, the value systems that you feel are important to you, want them to pick up. And then you find ways of introducing consequences in there so that they know how important that is, so that they pick the right values, and then it becomes a part of them. So like we said, if we find what is contrary to what they are learning, they know to act different, act the way they've been taught by their parents until they are older and they decide to do different. That would be their decision to make.
Well, we hope even as they grow up with the values that we instill in them. That would be really helpful. Baba, thank you so much. Like you said, it's really important to keep the conversation going with our children and to have a mutual understanding with our kids as well, so that they can come to us with any kind of conversation and be very open. I think that's a really important point, that children should feel open to talk to you about stuff so that they can get things off their chest. Baba, thank you so much for this. I think this has been such an important conversation for myself anyway, because it's something I'm dealing with personally. So it's always valuable to talk to you, being the experts that you are. Baba, please remind us how we can get hold of you if you want to keep this conversation going.
Absolutely, Mary. So it's heartsandmindsallowed@gmail.com. I'm happy to receive and address all your questions via email. And you can follow my work on social media at Hearts and Minds Allowed, both on Facebook and on Instagram.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Baba. This has been such an interesting conversation, and we will speak again next time. Thank you so much.